You're on a plane, maybe watching a movie, dozing off, or lost in thought. It's just another routine flight until it isn't. The plane banks sharply to the left. No turbulence, no announcement, just an eerie, unnatural turn. The hums of the engine is steady, but something feels wrong, deeply wrong. You glance out the window. At first you think it's just your imagination, a reflection, a trick of the light. But then you see them. 3 glowing orbs moving in perfect sync. Effortless, intelligent, watching. Then a blinding flash, and the plane gone. Sounds like something out of Lost, doesn't it? But Lost was just a TV show. MH370 was real. 239 people, an entire Boeing 777, vanished without a trace. No distress call, no explanation, just silence. For years the world searched for answers. And then a shocking video surfaced. The answers may not be what you expect. March 8, 2014, 12:41 a.m. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 lifted off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, climbing smoothly into the night sky. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Families, workers, students and explorers. People with plans. People who never expected their flight to become the greatest aviation mystery of our time. For the first 38 minutes, everything was routine. The pilots followed their flight plan, air traffic control maintained contact, and passengers settled in. Some watched in-flight movies, others pulled blankets over themselves, drifting into sleep. Then at 1:19 a.m., as the plane prepared to leave Malaysian airspace, the captain's voice came through.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
A calm, professional sign-off. It was the last thing anyone would ever hear from the cockpit. 2 minutes later, the transponder went dark. This wasn't normal. The transponder is what tells air traffic controllers where the plane is. If it stops transmitting, the plane becomes invisible. Then came something even stranger. The plane made a hard left turn. It wasn't a slow drift, not turbulence. This was a sharp, controlled maneuver. At 1:37 a.m., air traffic control sent the message.
MH370, please respond.
No reply. The plane was still flying, but it wasn't answering anyone. By dawn, MH370 was officially missing. In Beijing, families waited for loved ones who never arrived. At first there was confusion, then fear, then something worse, silence. Search teams mobilized quickly, sending ships and aircrafts to the South China Sea where the plane was last tracked. They scanned the waters expecting to find debris. A crash leaves wreckage, bodies, floating parts. But they found nothing. Days passed. Planes flew over the ocean scanning every inch. Still nothing. Then came the first major breakthrough. But it didn't come from radar or sonar or eyewitnesses. It came from a satellite, 22,000 miles above Earth. Even though the transponder was off, MH370 satellite communication system, SATCOM, was still active. It had been pinging and orbiting Inmarsat satellite every hour. At first, these pings seemed meaningless. They didn't include location data. But the engineers made a discovery. By measuring the distance between the plane and the satellite at each ping, they could estimate where the plane had gone. What they found shocked everyone. MH370 had not crashed in the South China Sea. It had flown for nearly 7 more hours, and it had gone somewhere no one expected. MH370's pings revealed 2 possible routes. North, towards Central Asia, over land, where it would have been seen on military radar, and south, into the vast, empty Indian Ocean. If it had gone north, someone would have seen it. There are multiple countries with air defense radars, but the plane never appeared. So that left only one possibility. MH370 had flown south. Not just a little, thousands of miles in the most remote part of the world. And here's the thing, this was deliberate. The altitude changes, the course correction, the slow, controlled descent, it wasn't the erratic movements of a plane in distress. Someone was in control. But who? And why would they take MH370 to a place where it could never be found? At 8:19 a.m., the plane sent its final ping. After that, silence. That was the last time MH370 was ever heard from. For years, investigators, journalists, and conspiracy theorists have debated what really happened to MH370. And to this day, there is no real explanation, just theories, none of which are simple and straightforward. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah was a respected pilot, but investigators found something disturbing. A saved flight simulation on his home computer that mirrored MH370's final path into the Indian Ocean. Was this a test run, a deliberate act, or a suicide mission? The idea of a pilot taking down a plane intentionally is not unheard of. There have been cases in aviation history where pilots have deliberately crashed their planes, often due to personal or psychological distress. But if Zahari intended to take his life, why choose such a prolonged, calculated route? Why navigate thousands of miles into one of the most remote locations on Earth? A deeper investigation into Zahari's personal life revealed troubling details. Reports suggest that his marriage was falling apart, and just one day before the flight, his wife and children had moved out of their home. He was also allegedly involved with another woman, so adding to his emotional turmoil. Some close to him believe he was in a dark place, isolated, troubled and burdened by personal issues. But beyond his home life, Zahari was also known to be a strong supporter of Malaysian opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim, who had been sentenced to prison on controversial charges just a day before MH370 disappeared. Could this political blow have pushed him into this emotional spiral? Did he see the flight as his own final protest, one that would send a message to the world? Then there's the simulation on his personal flight software. The exact flight path leading to the Indian Ocean is too precise to be ignored. It suggests that, at the very least, he had thought about a scenario like this before. Some aviation experts believe he may have deliberately depressurized the cabin, slowly cutting off oxygen to incapacitate passengers and crew while he continued flying alone. The aircraft could have continued on autopilot, only to run out of fuel and plunge into the ocean. But here's the problem. If Zahari truly planned this, why was there no goodbye message? No manifesto? Why take 238 innocent lives with him? If he wasn't behind it, then who was? That remains one of the most haunting possibilities of the MH370 mystery. The possibility of hijacking was explored early on, but something about this case never fit the usual patterns. Normally when a plane is taken over, there are demands, political statements, ransom, threats, but MH370 vanished into silence. If hijackers were to take control, they would have contacted authorities, attempted to land, or head toward a country or a known terrorist haven. But the plane traveled thousands of miles into the middle of nowhere, so what would have been their endgame? There were 2 Iranian passengers on board with stolen passports, raising suspicion early in the investigation. But these men weren't trained pilots, and later reports confirmed that they were likely just seeking asylum, not planning an attack. No passengers stood out as immediate threats, no crew members showed signs of being involved, and yet someone was controlling the plane after it went off course. The altitude changes, the speed adjustments, the long, calculated descent, none of it was random. This wasn't the chaotic flight pattern of a malfunctioning autopilot, this was intentional. Which raised the most unsettling question of it all. If it wasn't Zahari, and it wasn't a hijacker, who was flying the plane? Then years later, a strange video appeared. The footage showed what looked like a Boeing 777 surrounded by 3 mysterious orbs. These objects didn't move like normal aircraft. They floated around the plane in a smooth, controlled motion, almost as if they were studying it. Then, in a split second, the plane disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone. If real, this video would change everything we know about flight, technology, and even science itself. So naturally, the video spread quickly online, grabbing the attention of conspiracy theorists and aviation experts alike. People carefully examined every detail, analyzing heat signatures, movement patterns, and flight mechanics. The way the orbs moved was unlike any known aircraft, and the video seemed too precise, too detailed to be dismissed immediately. Could this mean the plane was taken by something or someone not of this world? But as with all extraordinary claims, skepticism followed. Experts in video analysis, aviation technology, and military tracking systems took a closer look, and the problems started to show. The way shadows moved in the video didn't match the laws of physics. The way the plane vanished wasn't exactly how objects behave in infrared recordings. And some digital effects experts even found CGI flaws in the video, evidence that the footage had been altered or entirely faked. The orbs, rather than behaving like physical objects, moved too perfectly, too smoothly, as if they had been animated. So the conclusion, the video was fake. And yet something about this entire case still doesn't sit right with me. Because here's the thing, someone created this footage, and they did it with incredible attention to detail. If this was just an internet prank, why was the video so perfectly timed to fit with MH370's disappearance? How did the creator know how to mimic real-world infrared footage? And why did it appear years later, just as public interest in the case was starting to fade? I've always believed in the possibility of extraterrestrial life. I think there's too much we don't know about the universe to dismiss the idea entirely. But with MH370, I was convinced at first that the most logical explanation was the pilot. It made sense, the flight path, the simulator, the personal struggles. And yet, they never found the plane. Then when I saw the video, I was amazed. I was almost certain that it was real. Of course, I'm no expert in video analysis or whatever, but I do know that I want to believe. And in this case, this was the only explanation available that could have answered all questions. So if it's not the pilot or aliens, how does a massive Boeing 777 just disappear? The only confirmed debris consists of a few scattered pieces washed ashore, but the main wreckage, cockpit, and black boxes have never been found. In July 2015, a flaperon from MH370 washed ashore on Reunion Island, thousands of miles away from the suspected crash site. Over the next few years, more debris turned up on the coast of Africa and surrounding islands, confirming that the plane had crashed somewhere in the Indian Ocean, but no final impact site. No definitive answers. As in every video we do, this seems to be a recurring theme. Was it a cover-up? Some believe that governments know more than they're letting on. From the very beginning, there were inconsistencies, delayed responses, missing radar data, and contradictions in the official statements. It took 4 days for authorities to acknowledge that MH370 had turned west, flying back over Malaysia. Why? Some suspect a catastrophic mistake, a military shootdown, covered up to avoid international scandal. If MH370 was mistaken for a hostile aircraft, a split-second decision could have ended the flight. But that would mean wreckage should have been found, right? Unless it was hidden. There's also the question of radar records. Why haven't all military radar readings been released? Multiple countries, Thailand, Indonesia, India, and even the United States had the capability to track the plane. But some records remain classified. What are they hiding from us and the passengers' families? They deserve to know the truth. Even this search itself raises questions. Initially, rescue efforts focused on South China Sea, even after the satellite data showed the plane went the opposite direction. By the time the search moved to the Indian Ocean, valuable time had been lost. Some believe this wasn't incompetence, but intentional misdirection. But if that's true, then what really happened to MH370, and why was the search designed to fail? To this day, MH370's main wreckage has never been found. The world still doesn't know what really happened. Disinformation, hoaxes, and distractions only make the truth harder to find. But maybe, just maybe, we're not looking in the right place. If MH370 was meant to disappear, what else was erased? What signals were ignored? And what pieces of this mystery have yet to surface? Let's figure this out together. Leave your theories in the comments. And if you've seen my Operation Saucer episode, you know some disappearances aren't accidents.